through that, we went to Panama City on that paper mill as a foreman on that job. And that's where we worked on one shutdown, 56 hours.
Damn.
Without ever leaving the building.
I've done that on the ship, I know. One time I worked, well, it was 3 days straight. The number 4, it's the ship service generator. We got 4 of them on the ship. We got 6 altogether, but 2 are diesel driven and the other 4 are steam driven. Well, in our engine room we got number 3 and we got number 4. Well, number 4, the condenser, the condensate and the condenser kept salting up, you know, so we're losing water. So, you know, we shut down the condenser and everything, let it cool down, and we were up for 3 days, you know, testing the condenser, you know, pressurizing it, and like we took yellow dye markers and put in there and pressurized it, and then, you know, see if any of the yellow dye markers came out, checked with a black light and everything like that. Up for 3 days until we got that thing back on the line, and, you know, after we tested it and all, because we tested about 6-7 different ways, you know, until we, you know, we plugged all the, you know, there's like 13 tubes we plugged them and started back up. No problem.
You know, at this paper mill job there in St. Regis, James Clement and I was working together. See, I was foreman, James was working for me.
Yeah.
And we put in the Bowser oil, what they call a Bowser oil system. It was a system designed by Bowser Company. And then they had an inspector from Standard Oil Company.
Yeah.
Up there to inspect the system. And we started up and testing out everything.
Yeah.
Well, it made some of the guys mad because he liked me and James. He liked the work we done, the way we done it, and what we knew about different systems. See?
Yeah.
And he told the superintendent of the main construction that he wanted us to stand by, nobody else, 24 hours a day. We stayed out there, and we took a bunch of insulation boxes, stacked them up, made like a little cubby hole.
Yeah.
Where you couldn't see in there. And we had a bunch of stuff in there, a couple of bales of rags that come out on the floor. And me and James stayed there for 4 days and nights. We ate in the cafeteria for the paper mill.
Yeah.
But one of us would sleep about 4 hours, the other would stay up, just have to walk the system all the time. It was running. It was running dry, it wasn't making paper. But it was doing running it, wearing everything in, so checking off, see if anything leaks, bearings, anything like that.
Yeah, checking your oil temperatures and make sure your nozzles and shit.
Great big old tank, that darn tank, the oil tank was about half long here at that house, about 6 foot high, about 8 feet wide or 10 feet wide. And whenever you wasn't sleepy, then you was supposed to be off, go to the cafeteria, drink coffee, shoot the breeze over there, and watch your time. When it comes time for you to go to work, go back over there, and the other guy, he'd go get him a cup of coffee, or either lay down and go to sleep a while. We had a good job there, but some of the guys that belonged to the union raised hell, because we was getting all the overtime. See, we was getting, our overtime was the first 7 hours, first 8 hours straight time when we started. And the next 8 hours was time and a half. Third 8 hours was double time. All right, we got double time then until we went back and had 7 hours off. So we got double time there for 3 days on that thing. Oh boy, I made some good money on that damn job. I'd tell them it don't make it down to me what it is, I'll do it. That's the reason I always got that kind of job.
I tell you what's neat. Now, you know, the tank, you know, on land is just a big void. You know, there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
But on a ship, they've got, you know, you got your framework of the ship. Well, it goes through these tanks, and then they weld in plates, and they weld in little.
Hey!
They weld in little holes.
You gonna knock it over?
What they do is, they weld in, you know, it's kind of like, you know, slosh plates, so it doesn't, you know, roll back and forth so much. It hits these walls.
It's
But
flash plates.
yeah, but it's got, you know, holes through it where you can walk through it and, you know, get in there. Like we just did our feed water tanks. They may be like, one holds like 26,000 gallons, you know, and the other one holds 32,000 gallons.
Fresh water?
No, that's for feed water for the boiler. Our boiler has 2, and the Ford boiler has 2. And
that's not you're feeding them with salt water?
Yeah. Now, if you feed them with salt water, what it'll do is that salt to get in your tubes, and you'll rupture a tube eventually.
Yeah, that's what I figured. They use fresh water in there.
Yeah, we got a evaporator.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 on the ship, and each one makes 70,000 gallons per day. And
that's a generator. I mean, a distiller.
Yeah, distilling plant. And the way it works, it just evaporates the water. You know, evaporates so much seawater, and that goes up through. It's like it looks like a big Brillo pad. You know, they're, you know, where it goes up, and then it scrubs that salt off of them, and then you got the water that's coming in, goes through these condensers. You know, it goes through those condensers and turns the good water or the good steam into water, and it preheats that salt water before you send it into the evaporator.
You know, the job that we done down at Virgin Islands, that's what it was, a saltwater distillation plant.
Yeah.
But that damn thing was designed in England.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 3 tanks that were about 60 feet long,
Mm-hmm.
about 10 foot in diameter. These process tanks had cores and everything in it. This stuff had processed going through there. But there was rubber line. All of the pipes, from the time it left the ocean, that is the time it got to the tank, from then on it went through it. It was all rubber line stuff, fittings and everything. But you know, John, here's what gets me. There was, of the 100% of water that went through there, there was only 30% fresh water.
Yeah.
The other went out over the hill.
Yeah, that's like ours. Not all ours gets turned. The rest of it gets put back out.
Yeah. But,
Out of.
That was they made. What was it? 20. I believe it was 30,000 gallons every 24 hours. And but what got me was look how much water went through that plant. See, that went through the plant and then over the hill.
Yeah.
And it looks to me like they could get more water out of it than that.
Well, they got a new way. I'll tell you what they do. It's called it's called reverse osmosis. Now you got that salt in the seawater, and you know it's got a charge on it. I think it's got a positive charge on it. Well, what they do is they have a bunch of filters, and the water and these filters are negatively charged. Okay, so the water gets pumped through, and that salt has that charge on it, so it collects up against the filters, and then the water after it goes through all these filters is clean water. You know, it's not seawater anymore; it's fresh water. And what happens when you get a warning light that the filters are dirty or whatever? All they do is they take and they send it overboard, or send it back into the sea, and they go ahead and they drop that charge on the filters, and that salt water just take all that salt that's up on there, take it on over with it. The filters get cleaned off. You put the charge back on. It drops down again, where in your salinity, and they put it back to fresh water. They do that it's in the Virgin Islands where the naval base is there.
Yeah, well, it used to be the Marine base.
Yeah.
You see, that was a Marine base where they built that thing. We put in a big generator for electricity, a new one down there. Then we put one in the plant to operate the plant with.
Yeah.
And have you been in down there? There's a smokestack, 60 feet up above the top of a 2-story powerhouse. It is porcelain covered stack.
Hmm.
And we had to put that thing up in one piece. Had a job, couldn't reach it with the crane because it was out in the middle of the damn building.
Yeah.
And none of the cranes down there had long enough booms. And we had to take 4 air tuggers and rig them up on all 4 corners of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And put a jig with the cable back on to the end of the pipe at about 30 feet long out of 4-inch pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So that with a pulley, so when the cable went down, you get that end, turn it up.
Hmm.
You get that stack started, and then these others take hold of it. 2 of them was pulling it up, 2 was holding back, keep it from swaying, see?
Yeah.
And we mounted that darn thing, because that porcelain, you couldn't weld on it or hit it or nothing to chip it. That's what they was after, to keep from having to put one up later years. And we put a hinge, welded the hinge to the carbon steel plate
Mm-hmm.
at the bottom. And we made the hinge.
Yeah.
And put it on there. And that's what held that thing in place at the bottom as it come up and settled down over the bolts.
Hmm.
And it made a beautiful job. The general superintendent, project manager, asked me how I was going to put it up. I said, 3 days to figure what to do. And I spent about 3 days on that roof, looking at everything and trying to figure how much crane we could get, you know, pads, how much cable we had, and all that kind of stuff. We put that darn thing up there after we got rigged up. We put it up and set it in about 3 hours. Didn't take long. No, I tell you, there's lots of stuff. That's what I always liked about heavy construction. I always like to figure what to do with stuff, how to do it, and improvise. And
Yeah. Yeah, improvise is a big part on a ship.
Darn right, they improvise a big lot, and even on big construction jobs.
Oh, yeah.
See, down there in Charleston, South Carolina, at the GE plant,
Mm-hmm.
we put in a horizontal boring machine.
Yeah.
That it took 9 tractor trailers to bring it to the job site, plus 1 railroad car, special built railroad car to bring the turntable. And when it was assembled, weighed 120 tons, that machine. And that thing, the table had to go in so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
You only had 1/10 of a fraction to keep from busting the seal. If you bust the seal, it had to went clean back to the factory. And I worried with that thing about 3-4 days trying to figure what to do after it got it in. We had it set over there. And I'd go over and I'd look at it, check around, measure different things on it, you know, and see it had slides that you put dogs in it. They would hold stuff while it was boring. And they could put on that table, if that machine was installed, they could put 50 tons of metal, a piece of 50 ton of metal on that table to work it. And I kept on looking around that thing and looking around till finally a factory man come in. He told me, well, he says, if you drop that seal, so we ain't got but one alternative, that's to send it back to the factory. That's Connecticut, New York. So I said, how you been putting them on? He said, I can't tell you. I said, why? He says, that's your responsibility.
Wonderful.
My responsibility is to see that it goes on without getting broken. I said, well, I'll tell you one damn thing, Paul. I said, I'm going to put it on, break it in half. I said, that's the way I'm built. I said, I'll put it on. So I got 2 welders over there, both of them old timers.
Yeah.
Good welders. And we started talking about what to do and how to do and what we could do. So we made 6 dogs and welded them real heavy where they would slide in these glands where the dogs went in, you know, the hole and stuff. And we had them put in there, and on the back end on them dogs, we had them build up so they lay up against the table, a block. It would hold that dog where it wouldn't go on in. See? They were about that long. And we got all them made, ground to fit. We made them plenty tight. We had to grind, slide them in, make them fit. And that inspector factories, well, this is, when you go try it, I says, my crane's supposed to be in here this morning with a 200-ton boom on it. So that was just one dog leg. The first section of the boom had to be able to handle 100 tons. So we got one that rated at 200 tons. So
yeah.
So we got great big 1 inch, inch and a half turnbuckles.
Yeah.
And we welded them to rods that went down to the dogs. And then welded a hook and eye on the other end. And we had 8 cables going up. They all had to be even. She couldn't tilt to these damn. That was the idea of turnbuckles. So we put all that stuff on to the boom, rigged it up, and had a inch and 3/4 cable from the boom down to the eye. So we set up an instrument on 3 sides of that table, and I had 2 millwrights there with millwright levels, which are supposed to be 100% perfect. And we set them tables, them levels on there, and then the guys took the instrument and they'd shoot them cables, that table at different places. So
yeah.
We turnbuckle. It took about 3 days to get the damn thing ready to set. But when we did, it was an instrument, but what we did on the cross wire in there. And that inspector, I told him, they go around and take a look at that now, because I said, we're going up. And we had it up in a swing, you know, where we balance. And he